What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on first take, they're going to be talking about how Antonio Brown has just been accused of sexual assault by a former trainer. So let's see what they have to say about that.
There are a myriad of allegations here. I counted them at 3. The third one states, quote, that he forced her down onto a bed, pushed her face into the mattress, and forcibly raped her. Why is this just civil? Why is this not a criminal investigation? Or why is that the case?
It's one of the unanswered questions in all this. We don't know, Stephen A., if she went to police, if she reported this to police, and if she didn't report it to police and police didn't know about it, it would be hard for them to do anything about it. A lot of times in cases like this, people will not go to the police. And again, not saying one thing about the accusations or another, but I've seen in many cases where people are victims of assault and they feel like it's an uphill battle. They feel like their life is going to be dragged to the mud and it's something they don't want to do.
No.
So first thing first, I do not condone sexual assault or rape or anything like that. And if Antonio Brown is found guilty of doing that, then he's definitely be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But with that said, I mean, the timing of this just seems really, really fishy because I heard a sexual assault happen like in 2017. So, I mean, we're looking at least 2 years. So she's been so distraught about this whole issue that it's taken her 2 years to come forward with it. I know people go through motions and it takes time to whatever, but 2 years, and right when he signs with the New England Patriots, she decides to come on out with this. I mean, like I said, I don't condone it, but the time was just a little odd. And it wouldn't surprise me if somehow, some way, someone looks at her Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and they catch her with the Oakland Raiders jersey on, or a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey on, or something along those lines. I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm trying to lead to. But like I said, the timing just seems really funny for somebody who was sexually assaulted in a manner that Stephen A. Smith just described and is so distraught, it's taking you 2 years to come out with it. So, I don't know. Let's continue.
I understand why, excuse me, Max, hold on for a second. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is since those are the specific allegations, irregardless of what she wants to pursue, why wouldn't the law pursue that criminally in light of the fact that she is mentioning the word rape here, forcibly raped her? Shouldn't the law take it into their own hands since that's her allegation?
I think because they got to investigate it. And you look at how this kind of thing goes down. They might see, let's say they learned about this just now, like we did last night. They get this document, they take a look at it. They say, okay, we're going to read through this. We're going to call a couple of the parties. When you have a case like this where it's he said, she said, you obviously want to talk to the principals, but you don't have a lot of evidence. You might not have a lot of physical evidence. So you want to talk to all the parties and then methodically move to the point of what do we do now? Does this rise to the level of a criminal charge based on what we know and believe from the people we've talked to? So I think you can look at this and say, man, this seems like a criminal case right away. But it all is out in the details, and they have to, if they want to determine that, do a thorough investigation and figure it all out.
So again, I do not condone any raping or, sexual assault or anything like that. But again, the timing just seems very, very odd for this woman to come out with all these accusations. And it's not even on the criminal level. It hasn't been charged as a criminal issue. It's gone to civil. Everybody knows in civil, you get money. So a lot of this story is just very, very fishy. Again, I do not condone. If he did it, he should be prosecuted to the full level of the law. But this really seems fishy. I mean, this really, really seems fishy. So I don't know. Let's continue.
Ryan, normally in these cases, you wait till the facts come out. There's a presumption of innocence, and we wait and see. If this remains, however, merely or exclusively a civil case, the burden of proof is not the same as in a criminal case. It is not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It's by the preponderance of evidence, meaning more likely than not. Let's say a jury finds that if it proceeds in a civil case, she is awarded damages. What does that mean in terms of what is likely to happen next for Antonio Brown?
Well, a couple things. First, Max, when you're looking at this, you're assuming that during this entire time, the police aren't getting involved and saying, maybe there's something here we should investigate. So let's assume that they're not doing that, and it just becomes a civil case. If that happened, if that judgment is entered, I would think that the NFL at that point has been sitting back and waiting to see what happens in terms of levying a full punishment. And they're going to now have this information, they're going to have the conviction, and then they'll make a decision. Now, at that point, you've got a decision in a court of law, even if it's civil, even if it's at a lower burden, saying that a jury of your peers agreed that something happened here that caused the need for damages, something possibly the jurors thought was criminal. So I think in that particular case, you could see the NFL throwing the book at them. Now, I say all that to say, we're assuming, again, that the police aren't getting involved in this. So if the police get involved in this, it's a whole different story, and you got to wait for that to play out as well. So this could easily end up on two different tracks, even though it's on one track right now in civil court.
Ryan, there.
So again, I don't condone this. If Antonio Brown did it, then obviously he should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But I'm going to play the devil's advocate for what they just talked about. If it's found out that he really didn't do it, and we found out that she's lying, because we've heard this before, just like with the Ezekiel Elliott case. If it's found out that she's lying on Antonio Brown, and I've always said this, if they find out she's lying, then she should get the same sentence and punishment that he would get if he was found guilty. So if he was found guilty of raping her and he was going to get 10 to 15 years for it, then she should get 10 to 15 years if they find out that she's lying and that she's not telling the truth. I bet you that'll cut down on a lot of these accusations that aren't true and that don't hold water. So again, if she gets caught and if we find out that she's lying or it didn't really happen, she should get the same sentence that he would have gotten had they found out or it was proven that he raped her or whatever the situation is. That, like I said, that will cut down on a lot of these accusations and things, because no matter what, people are going to look at Antonio Brown like, oh, did he do it or did he not? Even if he gets off, there's still going to be people out there that looking like he's crazy. And another thing, this whole situation with, well, actually, I'll get into it in a second.
Those that would point to Adrian Peterson, for example, when they talked about the corporal punishment of his child, per se. That's how some folks viewed it. And as a result, he was taken off the field and put on the commissioner's exempt list and not allowed to play football. They would point to something like that and say, if the NFL took that position with somebody being excessive as a parent, what should they do when it comes to an allegation of this serious of nature? What should they do in this particular situation? How do you answer that?
Yeah, Stephen A., you just made the argument right there of why he should be put on the commissioner's exempt list. And you know what it comes down to, guys? It comes down to what the NFL has been saying about not condoning any sort of sexual assault. We are in an environment today where when survivors make claims, when accusers make claims, we want to err on the side of believing them, of saying their claims are valid. Let's research these claims, let's figure out what happened. But at the same time, let's err on the side of belief. If that's the case, especially given the precedent with Adrian Peterson and others, you look at this and you say, well, maybe if that's the line we have been towing, if we have been saying that we are concerned about this kind of behavior, we don't want to be seen as condoning it, you got to take them off the field. And then you say, let's take them off the field, let's figure this thing out. If we were wrong, then we will reinstate them. The other side.
Yeah, but like I said, you're innocent until proven guilty. So why are you taking him off the field while you guys figure it out? Why don't you figure it out and then you can make a move? Because if he's found not to be guilty, then he just got screwed over. Are you guys going to give him back pay or double his salary? I mean, what's going to happen? Because no matter what, the football player is going to lose out. The athlete's going to lose out. And there's a lot of gold diggers out there that know if you just cry whatever, everybody's most likely going to believe you. And no matter what, even if it's found that you lied about it, she lied about it, and it didn't really happen, there's still going to be some people out there that look at that athlete or that player kind of sideways, like, well, maybe he did do it, even though we found to be not guilty. Like I said, there's a lot of gold diggers that know all you have to do is cry this, and this and that will happen, and you could possibly ruin a guy's career. Also, what I was going to say earlier, I'm sorry if we continue talking, but what I was going to say earlier, this is exactly why Antonio Brown's behavior the past couple months, why you don't want to do it. Because look, just imagine if Antonio Brown's been cool these past couple months. He hasn't gotten in trouble. He's kept his head down. He's worked out. He's worked out with the team. Hasn't been in trouble at all. Everything is fine. And this whole thing pops up with sexual assault. People are looking at him like, wait a minute. I can imagine Antonio Brown doing that. He's a quiet guy. He doesn't cause him trouble. He doesn't do anything. I can't imagine that with sexual assault. I'm going to go with Antonio Brown. He seems like he's always been a good guy. That's one aspect of it. But since he's been in trouble this past almost year with the whole burning his feet and playing around with the helmet thing and getting in an argument with the general manager, he's been nothing but really a headache for the whole offseason and trouble. Now this whole thing that pops up with sexual assault, people are going to be looking at him. You know what? I bet you Antonio Brown did do it. He's been in trouble this whole time with the Oakland Raiders. He was trouble with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now he's charged with sexual assault. I believe it. I believe it. He seems like the type of guy that would do something like that because he's been in trouble this whole time. You see how I said that your behavior, you want to stay as cool as possible because you don't want to burn all your chances up. You don't want to burn all your chances up, and your behavior does count. So now it's going to be hard for him to convince everybody that he didn't do it when you've been a knucklehead this past couple of months. So I don't know. Let's continue.
Out of that, though, you got the PA, the NFL PA, you got Antonio Brown saying, wait a second, this is an accusation. And in America, anybody can make an accusation. How do you guys know this is true? I have already said it's not true. How are you doing this to me when it hasn't even played out in the court system, when the police aren't involved, when there hasn't been any kind of investigation? So it's a very tough line for the NFL to toe here. But I think in many ways, if you've got the community, if you've got fans out there looking and saying, well, if in this other case, you suspended somebody before it all played out, or put him on the exempt list before it all played out, and you're not going to do it here, doesn't make a lot of sense to it.